Let's bring on board Mr. P. Ramnath, the CEO of Sterlite Copper, that's Vedanta, which of course has been under immense pressure. It's been under a lot of controversies regarding the Tamil Nadu government finally putting a lock on the Tuticorin smelter, which of course was the cynosure of all eyes due to all the violence that took place protesting against that plant. So let's understand what will be the next step for Vedanta, what is the action they are going to take, and also apart from that, analyze what exactly does this do to India's copper demand supply outlook. Mr. Ramnath, really appreciate you giving us your time on ET. Now, to start with, what's the step that you have taken to oppose Tamil Nadu government's order of permanent shutdown of the plant? Because I know for a fact that your stance has been that you have not committed any crime in relation to which may go against environmental laws, rules and protections. You had told us this earlier as well. So naturally, you are going to take certain action against this order. What is it that the company is planning to do?
We are, as of now, we are still examining the future course of action. But however, we are still committed to contributing to the development of Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu, since we have invested heavily in the plant and machinery and various other measures. So as of now, as I said, we are still evaluating our options.
Sense, Mr. Ramnath, as to what has been the total sort of investment given by you, what has been the impact on account of this plant shutdown for the company so far?
Our total investment in Tuticorin is to the tune of nearly about 2,500 to 3,000 crores in various plant and machinery, etc. And as you know, we produce about 2% of the world's copper in Thoothukudi. And current capacity of India is around 1 million tons. And with a capacity of 400,000 tons, we supply about 250,000 tons in the domestic market, which has a total demand of roughly around 650,000 to 675,000 tons per annum. So which gives us a market share of roughly around 35% or so. So it's a huge market share that we have held, and definitely it'll have a huge impact in the market because the customers would have to import 250,000 tons of copper, and that is not going to be cheap. Already the prices have gone up by about 8 to 10%, and that's a huge amount of increase in copper because the margins in copper downstream especially are very, very low and very slim. So the customers have no other choice than to pass it on to their downstream customers. And eventually we will see a price increase in the price of motors and various other electronic and electrical appliances and various other equipment, all of which will use copper. So it's a cascading effect that it will have. And given that the demand for copper in India is going to increase by about 8 to 10% per annum, given the kind of initiatives that the government has taken in various fronts, like for example in smart cities or for electrification of rural areas, electrification of railways, and various such initiatives. So the copper becomes holds a very important position in the growth of the country and the growth of the GDP. So apart from that, we also supply phosphoric acid and sulfuric acid. So already we see in the market that sulfuric acid prices have gone up to nearly 3 to 4 times, and several units which cannot afford to run at such high prices have closed down. And a lot of other units their viabilities are under question because they are not able to operate at such high rates of sulfuric acid. And even phosphoric acid prices have also gone up in the market. And all this will result in much more imports and have a direct impact on the import and export balance for India.
Yeah, actually you answered my next question in relation to the dynamics of the Indian market. You mentioned that your total investment in Tuticorin was at about 2,500 crore rupees. Can we expect any impact on the books on account of this shutdown? Because I suppose this is something that would make a case for perhaps an impairment to be taken in the books maybe in Q1 or Q2.
So that is something which our finance group will take into consideration. But if you look at the overall value of in Vedanta, the overall asset value is just about 2% or so. But that is something our finance group will take into consideration.
Of the overall value. All right. And in terms of revenues, could you just tell us, I mean, you mentioned, of course, 400,000 tons, but in terms of revenues, what was it contributing?
In terms of revenues, because copper is a high value product, nearly about $7,000 a ton. So it was nearly $2.8 billion was the total revenue contribution.
Okay, fair enough. Mr. Ramnath, you mentioned about how this is something that will change the dynamics of copper supply and demand in India, naturally, with now perhaps India having to resort to imports. Could you tell us what was the immediate reaction you witnessed in Indian copper prices? Was there almost like a knee-jerk reaction? And how have copper prices changed essentially since this order?
As I mentioned, copper prices have gone up by about 8 to 10%. And immediately, of course, there was a shortage because customers had to, make arrangements for imports of copper, which is not, which cannot be done overnight. And certainly, all the prices of copper gone up by 8 to 10%, and that will impact the customers in terms of their pricing and in terms of their costing, and then in terms of pricing to their own customers.
Thank you for giving us more clarity as to what exactly the impact of this Tuticorin plant shutdown means for the company, your total market share, the overall copper prices, as well as what the future course of action is going to be. So clearly, the company and the management acknowledging that it has hit the overall market share, and they will continue to remain committed to Tamil Nadu as a region because of the hefty investments as well made. And remember, totally, the Tuticorin plant production is about 30% of the India output.